Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be recommending you some creepy, atmospheric October reads. So 'tis the season for reading spooky stories, and I have a couple that I wanted to recommend to you guys. But before we go ahead and get on into the recommendations, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box for links to all of my social media, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways from me. So all of these books are either classics or mystery thriller. I am not a huge horror reader. I would prefer a book that was creepy and atmospheric over straight up bloody horror. So if you're looking for like really graphic horror, then none of those types of books are going to be on this list. The first one is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I feel like everyone is familiar with the story or this title or this author, but Shirley Jackson is known as like the mother of modern horror, and she has written so many creepy short stories that I have read, and I read The Haunting of Hill House for the first time last year, and I really enjoyed it. But in this book, we follow four people who willingly enter into this experiment type thing where they go and stay at Hill House, and Hill House is known to be just weird and haunted, and all of these strange things happen to the people that stay there, and our main character is a doctor who is trying to study paranormal activity. And we're actually following the point of view of Eleanor, and Eleanor ends up really connecting with this house, and all of these strange things start happening to her. She starts to experience paranormal things, hear things. There's almost like this presence in the house. The house is alive and is trying to attack these people. And I found like the house for a haunted house story was probably one of the best that I have personally read. Like just the way that the house was described, it seemed to be a living, breathing thing, and the fact that everything seemed off all the time. Like the rooms were different sizes, nothing was level. You could go and get lost in the house, that it almost seemed to be a sinister entity in itself. Really gripped me, and I loved it so much. And the ending is a little bit disturbing. You really get into the head of Eleanor. There's definitely a psychological element as well, and I really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend picking up The Haunting of Hill House. The next is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and when I originally was curating this list, I didn't even think about The Phantom of the Opera, but then I had started a reread of this book last month, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, gosh, I don't remember this book being so creepy, but this is a gothic romance, and it is literally about a phantom who is known as the opera ghost by all the people of this opera, who goes around terrorizing people in this opera, and he even kills. He's a murderer. And he is in love with this main opera singer named Christine, and he is manipulating her, and she calls him the angel of music. She's never seen him before. And there's just this eerie, creepy atmosphere of this book with the setting of the opera house and the myth of this opera ghost where you have to keep box 5 empty for his enjoyment, that he will lynch you, kill you if you don't do what he wants. And this setting, not only do we have the opera house, but the reason that I put it on this list is I was reading a scene where Christine is going to pray and visit her father who is dead, and our main male character, Raoul, follows her, and they're at the cemetery, and it's just described as like having all of these bones and skeletons and stuff in the cemetery, and it was just such a gothic, creepy description of a cemetery. So there's just so many cool gothic elements in this book that I definitely think it warrants being on this list because it has a great atmosphere. The next books are thrillers, and the first one is The Death of Mrs Westaway by Ruth Ware. I read this book last year, and it follows a girl named Harriet Westaway who one day gets a letter in the mail saying that she has been bequeathed a large sum from Mrs. Westaway's estate. She has just died, and she lives in like this huge sprawling estate, and Harriet is really confused because her grandparents, as far as she knows, are dead, and she has no relationship to this woman whatsoever. She just shares a last name, so she thinks that there must be a mistake, but she ends up playing the part, going to this estate and starting to learn secrets about her history, who she is, how she is connected to the Westaway family. And the reason that I want to include this book on this list is that I feel like the estate of Mrs. Westaway was definitely creepy. It was just this huge house with all of these rooms, and there was a couple of scenes where Harriet is staying up in like kind of the top part of the house, and she hears like footsteps coming up and down the stairs, and she goes to look and can't find anyone. She knows that she can't trust the family. The family doesn't know who she is. She thinks that some of them are out for her, so she doesn't know who she can trust, and she does get attacked a couple of times. So there's just this air of suspense and tension and creepiness throughout this entire book, and I thought it was well done. I enjoyed it, and I think it's a good book to read around the Halloween season. Next, we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which I read a couple months ago. I do have a full spoiler-free review if you're interested in checking it out. But in this book, we are actually following a group of characters that are attending a wedding on this remote island off of Ireland, and we're following several perspectives. Each one of these people is harboring a secret. Each one of these people is somehow connected to one another, and the skeletons start to come out of the closet, figuratively speaking, as all of these people's secrets get unveiled and the truth about one of the characters is revealed, and then there is a murder, and they can't figure out who the murderer was or why they would want to murder this person. The reason that I wanted to include this book is because the atmosphere is so well done. First off, you're on this deserted rocky island in the middle of the North Atlantic that is only accessible by boat when the weather's good. So you have all these people that are trapped on an island with a murderer. And I just love the secluded island trope because it really adds that level of suspense, knowing that something bad is happening and you cannot get off the island or risk like perishing in the ocean, and I loved that. And also the author did such a good job describing this island, describing the ocean, and there were like these bogs type things on this island that were like quicksand, where if you stepped into them they would like suck you down, which I thought was really creepy. There were also these caves that some of the characters explored, and I just really loved how each character had a deep dark secret and they weren't exactly who they appeared to be. I thought that the author really did a good job with that. So definitely one of those atmospheric books that I have read in a really long time. The next book is more of a mystery, and that is In the Hills Above the Gristmill by Calvin Ellis, and I also have a full spoiler-free review of this book if you want to check it out. But in this book, we follow a girl named Paisley Mott. She's about 22 years old, and she's a paranormal investigator. She has a YouTube channel, and she goes around just investigating strange things, and she actually gets commissioned by the preacher of the small mountain town to come investigate these murders because they think that it is Bigfoot that is doing these murders. And the reason that I'm including this book on this list is because it's more mystery than scary. And if you're someone that doesn't really like super creepy graphic murder books, this would definitely fit you, because while there are murders that they talk about them, they are definitely not graphic. And I think that this book is really atmospheric. Like, you're in this small mountain town. The people are super suspicious about outsiders. They're very closed-mouthed, and there is this preacher character that is very good about manipulating the people of this town. Additionally, our main character Paisley ends up staying with one of the richest people in the town in this huge Gothic house, and you can tell I kind of have a thing for Gothic houses, I guess. And I loved that setting, the way that the author describes the house. And there is this one scene where there's an intruder in the house, and I thought that scene was just super creepy. And then you also have some paranormal elements regarding Bigfoot and things like that. So like I said, definitely not a book that is super scary, but it definitely is intriguing and mysterious and has good atmospheric parts. So one I would definitely consider in the month of October. Now I have two Riley Sager books that I want to include on this list, and the first one is Lock Every Door, and I read this book last year and I finished it in about 24 hours. I started it, read it all day, went to bed, picked it up the next morning and finished it. I could not put this book down. It was so intriguing. It doesn't really have like fall vibes, but it definitely has creepy vibes. But in this book, we follow a girl named Jules, and one day she gets a job offer to stay in this super prestigious apartment building in Manhattan, New York, and basically apartment sit. And it's like an exorbitant amount of money, very unusual amount of money, and Jules needs the money, so she accepts. And all of the people in this apartment building are very hostile to a point towards her, and she begins to uncover secrets about the building. The fact that there have been multiple apartment sitters in this building and they have all gone missing, and she starts to investigate that, and no one in the building will talk about it. It's all hush hush, even though obviously everyone knows that something's going on. And then something happens to Jules herself where she starts to learn the truth of this building. And the thing that made me want to include it on this list was the reason behind all of the disappearances, because I feel like once that twist happens, you're like, what the heck? Like, I was not expecting that. It's creepy, it's disturbing, and I just loved the whole upscale, like uppity apartment building where you have all these people that are rich and elite, some celebrities, and they're all like have their deep dark secrets, so they don't want anything to do with one another. So it's a book that I personally got through really quickly, and it had me on the edge of my seat. I really wanted to find out what happened, and I feel like if you're looking for something that's good and suspenseful, then Lock Every Door would definitely check those boxes. Next we have Home Before Dark, and I also read this last year, and I can honestly say that Home Before Dark, even though I read this a year ago, I still think about this book. And in fact, I think I'm probably gonna buy my own copy of it because I just enjoyed it so much, and it's a book that I can see myself rereading around Halloween thereabouts every year because this book was downright creepy and it was well done. In this book, we follow a girl named Maggie, and at one time Maggie and her mom and dad had moved into this house that everyone said was haunted, and they were like, it's not haunted. But then one night they have this paranormal experience and they bolt from the house and never look back. And Maggie has grown up trying to figure out if what actually happened that night was real or not, because her memories are kind of blurry because she was a child. So she ends up going back to this town, if I remember correctly, repurchasing the house, or her dad never sold it and left it to her in his will on his deathbed. I can't remember exactly, but she ends up staying in the house and investigating if it actually is haunted or not. And we uncover a lot about this house in the history of the people who stayed there, the caretaker of the grounds, his family who still lives on the property. And there were just some scenes in this book that reminded me of a horror movie and a haunted house movie with like paranormal elements that were so creepy. And this is another book that had me on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what happened. I think I finished it in 1 or 2 days. The thing that gripped me about this book is that I was like, is what Riley Sager writing about paranormal? Is it actually happening? Is it in our narrator's head? Or is someone out there kind of like playing around with these people and making them think the house is haunted? And I couldn't figure it out. So this book has everything. It has a haunted house type atmosphere. It has mystery. It has murder mystery. It has an unreliable narrator, and one I definitely recommend for October. Okay, you guys, so those are just a couple of books that I think would be great October reads. They are creepy, they are spooky, they are suspenseful, most of them are thrillers. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and what you've thought of them, or if you have some good recommendations for the October season, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye!